Hey Bible fans, got a cool video for you guys today. What you see in front of you are two different Bibles, not that different, but this is going to be a comparison video between the Omega on bottom and what I'm calling the Omega 2.0 on top. And if you saw my large print Thinline reference Bible review, the one of the True Tone cover 2016 text, you saw toward the end of the video I told you I had this goat skin cover from an old Omega, from an Omega that I traded for, and I was going to put that block in this cover. So I'll show you some of the differences between the two. Now the covers are the same, varying slightly in the shade of brown. The one on bottom is a deep brown goat skin from Crossway. This also is a deep brown. You can tell they're a little bit different shades of brown. But not that different. I actually prefer the slightly lighter shade of brown in the Omega 2.0. And right off the bat, you can tell that the Omega comes with 4 multicolored ribbons. Black, like a brown, and a lighter brown, and like a cream color. Well, I love the longer ribbons and bigger ribbons, so I put in the multicolored, and in this light they look lighter. They're actually a little bit darker shade than this. The green, purple, and gold ribbons. And in this light it looks like that's yellow, but it's actually gold. So anyway, so the ribbons are way different. But I really think the Omega, along with a ton of other Crossway Bibles, they are so close to the Allen quality Bibles, Scholar quality Bibles. The biggest differences would be, one, lined paper in the back, which is an easy fix. And then 2, ribbons. Look at these cheap, crappy ribbons. I love the multicolored ribbons, but you can use these little 5mm. You can get double satin 5mm of these same color and do the same thing you've been doing. Do better ribbons. It's not that much more expensive. Can't be that much more expensive. I chose to do 10mm ribbons in the Omega 2.0, and you can see I had to slightly overlap them on the edges to get all 3 of them to fit, because I didn't want to bunch them. I wanted them to sit flat, but they look pretty good like that. Anyway, okay, so the comparison, the big time comparison, is the text block. When you open this up, let me just kind of open this. It's kind of bland and plain. The Omega is just a brown calfskin liner, same as the other one. This end sheet's just a nice brown end sheet, kind of like a leatherette kind of material. You can kind of see in the reflection the texture. And in the 2.0, I put in some truly custom end sheets. They have this gold splatter. Almost looks like a copper, the way that the colors mix together. And in this light, it has a little more gold to it than copper, but it's a really cool look. So let's open up to the publication page, and I'll show you the biggest difference between these two. Now, originally I thought that the blocks were a lot different in size, but these are actually the same size blocks. I'll show you why the Omega block is different than the large print Thinline block, but the blocks are actually the exact same size. This is with the 2011 text, Omega Thinline reference. It says it right there in the title, Omega Thinline reference. And it's a 15 printing, printed in the Netherlands, because it's printed and bound by Youngblood. Okay? And in the 2.0, this is printed in China. It's a 2016. It's a 6th printing of 2016. And you can see it's a large print Thinline reference edition with the 2016 text. So that's the main difference. The text blocks, one's printed in the Netherlands, one's printed in China, and one text block, we'll just go page 204 in Joshua. We'll do that. Let me move this out here and get to that same page. Okay. 204, this is the Omega. You have more of a margin, a finger's width margin around the text. You can see that going all the way around. And that only allows you to have a 10-point font. And the 2.0 has a smaller margin around the text all the way around. So you got more on the page, same size page. And this is a 10.5 font. Not a big difference, but definitely if you read a lot, it's noticeable. A half a point on the font is definitely noticeable. And in my opinion, the ghosting is slightly better in the Chinese printing. We'll give a close-up on that little spot above Joshua 8:30. See that little gap right there? That kind of gives you an indication. You know it's line matched. So memorize that. Now we'll look at the Youngblood. So it's a slightly darker in that gap than right there. Slightly lighter. To me, this block is it has a little bit less ghosting, if not about the same. The printing is great. I just love a little bit larger text. I don't write a lot of marginal notes, so a lot of this is just wasted space. Also, with this, you can see the Omega has this salmon color art gilt, which looks really nice. I've never complained about the art gilt that Youngblood does with the Omega. But when you fan out the pages, you can see it's kind of spotty. You can really see it like right there. It's kind of spotty because it's sprayed. It's a sprayed art gilt, and it's that lighter color. Along the 2.0, I wanted something a little different. And the brown, I did a brown art gilt because it really complements, it makes that gold look a little richer. And it's padded on, and you can see it has some inconsistencies, but you don't have any spotting. But you do have some darker padding areas. I'm gonna have to go back over it in a few spots, but for the most part, it's pretty decent. That's one of the better jobs, and it's hard to do a darker color as even. It's less forgiving. So when you look at the two art guilds, they are. I kind of prefer the brown art gilt. I just think it makes that gold. Let me close the Bibles and show you in the light. That gold looks kind of copperish, which is nice on the Omega. But when you close the 2.0, this gold looks almost a deeper kind of gold. It looks a little bit, to me, it looks a little bit better. Maybe it's just because I put the brown on there and I want to tell myself it looks better. I will say that these blocks are not the exact same, because this large print Thinline reference Bible is slightly thicker. I mean, slightly thicker. So maybe the paper's a little bit thicker in the Chinese block than in the Youngblood printed block. Maybe. I mean, it's a half of, maybe it's a 30/2 of an inch difference, and maybe that's the difference. And you can kind of tell that it's just a hair thicker than the Omega. The 2.0 is. Anyway, so that's really the biggest comparison. You have the ribbons, the art gilt difference. I mean, those tiny crap ribbons, I'm just not a big fan. I think this looks much better, much nicer. And you can see how that brown complements that gold right there. It almost makes it shimmer. The brown kind of brings out the gold. And the red is just ready to be hit with some water, almost. So, anyway, that's just my take on it. I love the Omega. I love it. It's probably top 3 Bibles, along with the Schuyler Credo, or the Schuyler Quintel, and the ESV NCR from Allen, Champbound, and then the Omega is up there with them. There's just something about this leather they use. I just love it. So, not trying to knock the Omega, but everything that's wrong with the Omega, I think I tried to fix it with the Omega 2.0. From the art gilt to the ribbons, and the end pages are kind of custom. The only other thing, and I've seen this paper other places, or I've seen this paper at Hobby Lobby, and I've always wanted to use it and never had a project to use it on, and I knew that this was the perfect project for it. Another thing, I'd glued this end sheet up pretty high, because I've done that a few times. I glued it up about 2.5 inches from the hinge to help with the stiffness. I wanted it to be a stiffer holding Bible, just because when you're reading and holding it, the Omega tends to flop a lot. Now the cover's still very floppy, but it's a lot easier to read from when you add a little bit of stiffness to it. And the Omega is a little bit floppier, which is not a bad thing. It's just a preference thing. See, it kind of flops a little bit more. And just from my experience with the Omega, it's I've come to enjoy. I have to really spread my hand out to be able to read the ends of the pages. So I've really come to enjoy one that doesn't quite flop as much, and that's why I kind of read from my Quintel more than my readers or my NCRs and stuff. So anyway, that's about all I can say for the comparison, the project. I think the project was a success. I really don't plan on trading or selling the 2.0, but I probably will be looking for some more trades to acquire some more covers, because I want to do another one with like a really crazy, wacky color on the art gilt, and some even more different end sheets and ribbons. So I will be looking for some Omega covers, or some Heirloom Thinline, or even some Heirloom Legacy covers. If you have a block that's just trashed and you want to trade it or try to sell the cover, I might be willing to work out a trade or purchase it from you. So anyway, that's basically the comparison. Tell me what you think. Leave a comment. If you're not a subscriber, check it out. I drop Bible reviews all the time, and comparison videos on premium and non-premium Bibles. So check it out, and be a subscriber. And thanks for watching, and God bless.